This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Daily Business News for people who make their own decisions. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's not getting the attention that we feel it probably should, and then our favourite business-ish story. And every week we are joined by a judge to pick a winner. It is horrendously competitive, and that judge is our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael, and good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Adam. You've done an excellent job the last couple of weeks.
No, he hasn't.
Yes.
I think we can all agree that the last few weeks have been horrendously biased. Look, speaking of bias, can you just give us a quick rundown, Adam, of your judging criteria?
Why?
It doesn't count for a huge amount when it really does just come down to your bias, doesn't it? But
my working criteria are 1, topicality, 2, timeliness, 3, economic impact, very important, 4, of course, my subjective bias comes into it, and 5, we love a touch of melodrama.
Okay, that's all fine. That all makes sense in theory. Let's see what happens in practice. The biggest story this week, look, something a little unorthodox here today, Adam, because Sean and I actually agree on one biggest story, and Sean's going to tell you what that is, and then we're each going to put to you our next biggest story, and you can judge those.
I see.
Yes.
So you're still going for a podium finish, but it's second and third that we're going for.
Yeah, so it's very much silver and bronze because gold medal, we agree, and we're going to both get half a point. So today's race is going to be out of 5, not 4. Okay. So we're both getting half a point because of those inflation figures that came out during the week. 1% for the quarter, 4% for the annual year. The annual year? Just the year. The trimmed mean measure, which is the one the Reserve Bank likes, the one we care about in terms of interest rates, 1% for the quarter, 3.9% for the year. That's actually slightly lower than expected. So certainly that pushed markets in different ways with the idea now that interest rates will be cut. That'll be the next move. There won't be a hike when the Reserve Bank board meets next week. That's the biggest story of the week. So we kind of get that. We both get half a point. Nice start, Michael. Well done.
Yep. Well done, Sean. I think we did well on that. And just to make it abundantly clear, Adam, don't include that in Sean's kind of story when I'm sure he'll end up.
I did say it. But
See, this is the problem, that whenever you kind of introduce a story, that I just feel like Adam somehow manages to merge it, to blend it into the judging. I'm really paranoid. I need a win. my self-esteem's at an all-time low.
I think you are right. You are very paranoid. I think that's right. So, Adam, do not take that into account. Anything I have said, irrelevant. My biggest story of the week. What a crazy week, crazy week for financial markets. Basically, it's the flow on from the inflation figures. The ASX 200 hit a new record high of 8,145 points. Incredible. Then it goes ahead and tumbles. So the market really was on a tear. Now, it's a touch risky because we are heading into earnings season. What happens if companies disappoint? I mean, you could well see a mighty sell-off. Companies are what they say priced to perfection, as in very fully priced, notwithstanding the sell-off on Friday. Any slip-ups and you could see share prices fall very quickly. In the US and Europe, what you're seeing are companies hitting targets, as in earnings targets, revenue targets, but just being a bit less optimistic about the future. You had some of the big tech companies during the week come out with pretty good numbers, Apple, some of those guys, but then just disappoint about what the outlook's like. We did have Rio reporting locally this week, a solid result, even if the dividend disappointed some investors. Next week, there are more companies reporting, but the following couple of weeks is when things really ramp up. Another reason the market is running is that the Fed came out this week and said it could start lowering interest rates as soon as September after holding rates at a 23-year high for the 8th meeting in a row. In fact, the Fed said there had been real discussion at the Fed Open Market Committee about cutting rates. So we're heading into profit reporting season with equity markets in Australia. Well, the ASX 200 hit a new high, come off a bit since then. What could possibly go wrong, Adam? What could possibly go wrong with that?
Mm-hmm.
Worrying. Michael?
Yes. Big story, that one.
You weren't even listening.
No, it sounded like he was perfecting his own story, didn't it?
No, it's like the swimmers, the Olympic swimmers, kind of they're just in the zone. They're not kind of paying attention to the other competitors being introduced. I was there with my headphones on, just kind of
in your zone.
Yeah, I was in the zone. I was in a victory zone because that's what I'm going to see. I'm going to be seeing gold after this one. Well, it's really silver, isn't it? Because inflation was the biggest. But after inflation, there was one other big story this week that grabbed all of the headlines. It certainly grabbed my interest. It is the collapse of Rex, the airline that started out really as a regional operator connecting towns and people all over the country. 3 years ago, though, it made a somewhat fateful decision to take on the Golden Triangle, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, signing a lease on 737 jets after Virgin went into administration during the pandemic, but taking on Qantas. And then, of course, a revived Virgin Australia has not been a success for Rex. Even a month ago, I was offering $99 fares from the East Coast to Perth. Still not enough. Maybe part of the problem. There's been angst at the board level for weeks now. And then at last, this week, the administrators were called in. EY is now conducting a sale process over the next 5 or so weeks. The flow-on effects, though, here are huge. This is a hugely significant story. It is massive. Regional flights are continuing.
Hold on.
Sorry, it is.
No, this is a huge story. Massive flow-ons. Then the next sentence you said, regional flights are continuing. Yeah,
Only
right,
because of a financial lifeline. And this is it actually goes to the point. I thank you, Sean, for your interjection, because it allows me to make a very pertinent point. The regional flights are continuing, and that is only because of a financial lifeline that has been extended by one of the investors, because they recognize how important it is and because that is the core of the business that is actually successful. The capital city flights here have been suspended immediately. Up to 600 people may lose their jobs across the business. Hopefully it wouldn't be as many as that because that kind of covers a larger part of the company. But the big winner out of this, if there is one, is Virgin Australia, because it moved very quickly, taking over leases for the Rex jets, helping to offset a global delay in delivery for their new aircraft. It's also helping to fly those people who had capital city tickets. A big political angle to this story
too.
Is it
big?
The government. It is big. It is massive. It is huge. It is enormously significant. The government is under pressure.
It is a bit dull.
Adam?
So, Michael, if this was sailing, would you be raising a protest flag at this point?
I started my story with a protest flag in the air. Goodness me. This is outrageous.
Go on. Keep going. Keep going. This is great fun.
The government is under pressure to do what it needs to do to make sure that services are maintained to regional Australia, including the potential to take a stake in the airline. And keep in mind that this is the second local airline to go under just this year. After Bonza collapsed a few months ago, there are calls now, as you would expect, for major reform in the sector, because clearly it is a tough space, an expensive space for a third operator, even one as experienced and as established as Rex. Big story, covering business, covering politics, a real human impact right across the country. It's just a tiny little bit embarrassing for me, considering a month ago on this podcast, I was going on about Rex being the unsung hero of the Australian aviation sector, rising through the Skytrax World Airline rankings. In fact, I went back and checked the tapes through the week, and I declared that it was entirely possible that Rex could take the top spot from Qatar Airways. Goodness me, is my face red. But it is a big story, and really a story that has affected so many people across the country. And Adam, before anyone else has a chance to say something.
I would like just to say, Adam, I think you should judge this story on the basis that Rex was on the way to being the top airline aviator in the world.
Well, I tell you what, when I went back and listened to it, I'm like, goodness me, I say some stuff, don't I? It was a moment of self-realization, listening back to that tape going, I reckon half of what comes out of my mouth is rubbish.
Well, flourish, I'd prefer to call it, rather than rubbish.
The other half is flourish.
One half is rubbish, the other half is flourish. Thank you. I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Over to you, Adam.
Okay. Sean wins. So look, CPI story is obviously massive. That number at 11:30 on Wednesday was just so important, and what a relief. So moving on to the second and third, I think the financial markets is also incredible. Sean, I love your line, priced to perfection. You know, the Magnificent Seven in the US reporting so far has been, as you said, that they're meeting expectations, but they're not matching hopes. And so the prices have come down despite really good results. There's just so much money involved. And as this is flowing through to Australia and the ASX, it's incredible. So I think that record high, what a week, incredible week. Rex collapse is really interesting. And Michael, to your point, what is going to happen from here? You know, Sean, I know you proposed that perhaps the government should intervene. We don't know the status of that and what will happen. But, you know, the regional airline component is so important, but obviously the metro stuff has just failed.
1.5 to half. You got half a point there, Michael. Keep that in mind from the inflation stuff.
Yeah, I thought I'd have more than that. Anyway, look, it's consistent. We are being consistent here. Of me thinking I would win the first story and instead losing, I need to lower my expectations. I'm going to be more realistic. However, I'm going into the most remarkable category with sky high expectations.
Okay, take it on. Go for it.
Okay. Adam, this week.
There are listeners out there. It's not just about Adam.
Oh, no, this is all about Adam.
Right.
Because in the end, it's Adam that decides. Unless we want to turn the judging over to everyone else, in which case I suspect the people, my people, will rise up.
Let's do an online vote.
Yeah, we certainly won't put that to the test because I would hate to be shown up. This week, we received what can only be described as a truly remarkable insight into the state of Australian business. And I'm going to start with the good news before I get to the bad. ASIC revealed, and Adam, this is really quite amazing. So you best hold on to something, your hat, your pants, your chair.
Listeners, this is really quite amazing.
Hold on to something because you will be shocked by this. Shocked and amazed. There were, according to ASIC, 3.38 million businesses registered in Australia at the end of June. Just 12 years ago, in 2012, there were 1.88 million businesses. So from 1.88 million to 3.38 million, with a little bit of rounding up, and I probably could have done this more accurately, let's just say it doubled. That's reasonably close too. Isn't that just remarkable? And it actually, it tells us something, doesn't it, about the entrepreneurial spirit that pervades this country, that unites us. It's that have a go attitude that's driving our economic growth. I don't know about you, Adam, but to me, that is just remarkable. I've always wanted someone to start humming the national anthem while I'm talking. So you really made my day, Sean. The bad news now. Last financial year, hospitality businesses failed at the fastest rate on record, rising food and energy prices and a reduction in consumer spending to blame for that. The number of collapses in the sector jumped 50% to a record. Total insolvencies were up to just over 11,000, a record, yes, but maybe this is a normalisation after the propping up of so many businesses during COVID. But I really want to finish on a high here. So just one more tribute, once again, to those 3.38 million businesses operating in Australia. And ASIC revealed this week just how many there are now compared to how many there were 12 years ago. That is spectacular growth. So many small and medium-sized businesses, all with aspirations of growth, dreams of success, and willing to get in there and have a go. Fear and greed is one of them. Adam, to rule against me on this one is to declare yourself both un-Australian and anti-business.
Wow.
And I do not believe that you are either of those.
Was that the flourish or the rubbish part?
I think it's an indistinguishable blend, Sean.
With a little bit of threat mixed in.
Yeah. Well,
I've never tried that before.
Didn't everyone start a business in COVID, though? I started 3 in COVID. Literally.
Yep.
How many did you start? How many of you started in the last few years, Adam? 1, 2. Yeah. And Michael, you've started 2. We're going to say book selling is a business.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
International author.
International author.
All-round dreamboat. Sorry, what?
That's not a business, is it? Please start a business called International Dreamboat.
That's his third business, but let's not talk about that.
It's not a business, it's just an asset. Go on.
Okay, my most remarkable story comes from the one and only Donald Trump. Perhaps we should ban Trump stories. I'm happy to do it up to this week, but even by his standards, this week's efforts were truly remarkable. He questioned whether Kamala Harris identified as being black. And he was talking to an audience of black journalists. He actually suggested Harris had adopted her racial profile as a way to gain a political advantage. What do you say to that? Like, he said she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person. Seriously? I mean, Ms. Harris's mother is Indian American, father's Jamaican. She's always identified as a black woman. She went to one of the states, the US's most famous black colleges. This is absolute crap. That's the only way you can describe it. Just absolute rubbish. Now, Mr. Trump's remarks, not surprisingly, prompted gasps and jeers from the audience at the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago. Don't you love how he picked his audience in this one? He also told the group that he was the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. I mean, Lyndon Johnson, he did all the civil rights stuff. He included the legislation that ensured black votes counted. Does he beat that? Even the Wall Street Journal, which is the editorial pages of the Wall Street Journal, which is the most right-wing media outlet in the US, came out. And they didn't actually say he was wrong, but they said, he's kept inflation down, so he has helped black people in America. But to actually come out and say Kamala Harris wasn't black until she was Indian and now she's black, it is absolutely remarkable from Donald Trump. I still find it astounding that someone running for president can just simply lie like that and get away with it. I mean, maybe the American population is also tiring of Donald Trump. Polls suggest that in battleground states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, Ms. Harris might be slightly in front. Still a long, long way to go, though. I just think his effort this week was truly remarkable. Promise not to do another Donald Trump story in this category because he gives us so much fodder. But to question whether Kamala Harris is black, remarkable. Adam.
Yeah, how incredible. I mean, it is totally remarkable, the Donald Trump story. And I wonder, Sean, if equally as remarkable is, will it matter to his voters? I don't know that it will.
But does it matter to the middle ground? Like, it won't matter to his voters. That's
a better point, actually. Yeah, that's a better point. Will it matter to the middle ground? And that's to be seen. What I also think is remarkable is the fact that 2 weeks ago, the election was clearly favouring to Donald Trump. It probably still is.
Yeah.
But it has changed a lot in the last 2 weeks, remarkably so. Mm-hmm. So I think great story. I'm going to give this one to Michael. It does speak to my heartland. I love the fact that Australians are starting more businesses and having a go. I think it is brilliant, remarkable. I also wonder whether this is impacting union membership. And I know that's a long sort of bow to draw. But if you look
I don't know, Adam. Not as long as some of the ones you've drawn before.
If you look at the CFMEU and its demise in recent times, and you look at the diminishing long-term union base, the fact that Australians are starting more businesses and doing it for themselves, I wonder if those two things are related.
Find the link.
You win, Michael. Well done.
What I think is most remarkable this morning is that you somehow got this CFMEU and unionism into Michael's story.
Yeah, I'm just still waiting for the connection. That was great. Now, where are we? 1.5 to 1.5.
Oh God, it's exciting.
Yes,
it's pretty close. I mean, it's very close, obviously. we should take a quick break. We will come back in a moment and find a sleeper story. I've got a cracker of a sleeper story this week. I'm secretly very excited about it. We will get to that in just a moment. Sean, sleeper story of the week. You're going first on this one. This is a story that's flying under the radar a wee bit, or is not perhaps getting the attention that we feel it deserves. What have you found for us?
Wow, this is a big one because it's been everywhere but Australia. That's a total lie. It's been in Europe, in the US, but not really in Australia. It's basically all about weight loss drugs. So weight loss drug supplies in Australia are set to improve dramatically as the company behind Ozempic prepares to provide its version of the medication that is specifically designed for patients seeking to shed kilograms. Novo Nordisk, huge Norwegian company, it has finally decided to launch its powerful Wegovy medication in Australia. That should resolve the prospect of a supply shortage in October when chemist-made versions of Ozempic were scheduled to be banned. There's still some questions in the air about the long-term effects of these drugs. That's kind of why it was going to be banned. But until now, Australians have only been able to buy limited supplies of Ozempic, which is officially licensed as a diabetes treatment rather than for weight loss. The Financial Review this week was saying that Novo Nordisk is planning to begin offering its weight loss drug Wegovy this month. Patients will need a prescription from their doctor, and the drug won't be subsidised on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme. We don't know how much it'll cost, but it will be expensive. Wegovy comes in higher doses than Ozempic. That makes it more effective for weight loss. It's been approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration since 2022, but it's never really been sold in Australia. These drugs are absolutely revolutionising health. We haven't had them in Australia, at least not at scale. That might be about to change. That has enormous flow-on effects through to, we've seen ResMed this week, for example, the sleep apnea group. It reported good results, strong result on Friday, but its share price has been declining because of what these weight loss drugs are doing to help sleep apnea patients. Huge implications. We haven't seen it in Australia yet, but now that this drug is going to be here, we may well do. That's my sleeper story. Actually, that wasn't bad, bringing sleep apnea into the sleeper story. Didn't mean to, but
bit of self-acclaim.
It kind of worked. Yeah. Michael, sleeper story. Give me a good one.
That's a good one.
Give me one that matters. Give me one that matters, that it's actually going to happen. Tell me.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. It feels like I know you're trying to set me up, but it doesn't matter because I've got this covered. Because this week we received a glimpse into the future of the green economy. Just a wee glimpse, but that's why I am here, to feature it as my sleeper story, to shine a spotlight on it, because I'm talking, of course, about carbon credits or Australian carbon credit units. We already know, of course, how the system works. Businesses can earn credits for reducing or removing carbon dioxide equivalent. Those credits can be sold to other businesses or organisations, including those who are required by law to offset their emissions. This is going to be huge business, particularly as we push towards our net zero goals. But the sleeper part of this is just how broad and, quite frankly, creative the scheme is going to be. And the reason for that is the government has now put it to private citizens, corporations and charities to come up with new methods for earning these credits. There are already 31 approved methods. The government is now considering another 43 ideas. These include things like buying secondhand clothes at op shops, earning carbon credits because it reduces greenhouse gas emissions from the import of new garments, particularly fast fashion. There are 42 other ideas on the list. That was just one. There are 42 other ideas. I won't go through them all, but the carbon credit market is going to be huge. The value of these carbon credits is tipped to double by 2030.
Can you just give us a second one?
No, Sean, I'm on brevity. I'm really on time here. And it is going to be broad. And this is the thing. The carbon credit market is going to be much bigger than business. It is going to be beyond big business. It is going to expand to everyday consumers when we are now talking about things that actually involve citizens. We saw that this week. This is the sleeper story of the decade.
So can I just get this right? So the sleeper story of the decade is people going to the Salvation Army St. Vincent de Paul shop. Is that right?
Well, essentially, that's just the teeny tiny tip of the iceberg, of a giant sleeper story iceberg, Sean, because this is actually about the future overall of the green economy and the fact that it is not just about business and it is not just about kind of your big polluting businesses being tasked with the reduction of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions, that these ideas now are going beyond that to include your everyday Stevens and your on the street Marys. Like that we are actually talking about ordinary people being involved in the carbon credit unit market, which I think is quite extraordinary. And it is the future of the green economy. And we only learnt that this week. It is a big, big story.
The only problem with me saying something, Ben, was it just gave you another 30 seconds to grab it on.
Well,
Adam, over to you. Put us out of our misery, both of us.
Okay. So I think, Sean, you have to win on this.
I'd hope so, given Michael's effort about secondhand clothing.
Yeah, see,
it was just an example. Oh, you guys, it is just an example.
He's off.
You are just so
You did it again,
concrete.
Sean.
You are so
I should've just shut
literal,
up.
so concrete that you can't look beyond this single example to the bigger issue here. This is what is wrong with Australia. The two of you. Sorry, Adam.
Okay, I'm going to be brief. Weight loss is the great health challenge. So I think that is far more present and real in its impact. I get it totally, Michael. It's a huge story, but I think it's been discussed for so long and we are just still some long way off, I think, resolution on real progress. So, yeah, weight loss has to win.
Yeah. 2.5 to 1.5.
I'm being gracious about this. I'll accept the judge's decision. Okay, shall we move on to the favourite story?
Yeah.
I can still pull this one back.
You can.
Am I going first on this?
Let me go
think
first.
I am.
Let me go first.
You go. Okay.
Let's finish with
After
a flourish. I mean, I'll start with some serious stuff.
Some actual news?
You finish. Yeah.
And then we could cheer Michael into the stadium for the last one.
That's exactly right. It'll be like the marathon on the final day.
The last runner.
At least you made it, Michael.
Everyone's favourite pastime, maybe not for the current 2 weeks of the year, or 2 weeks of the 4 years, but otherwise, everyone's favourite pastime is property values. So the fact that we found out this week that national home values rose by 0.5% in July, that's the 18th consecutive month of increases, and prices were more than 13% higher than early last year, has to be my favourite story. The Australian market's now split in two. Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide are soaring. Melbourne, Hobart and Darwin are struggling, according to CoreLogic figures. Sydney is somewhere in between. House prices actually fell during the last 3 months in Melbourne. Pretty incredible. Sydney, they're up just 1%, much slower than the 5% pace this time last year. Momentum has well and truly come out of those markets outside Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide. What's great about this is just a great example of supply and demand. In the cities where supply is below average, Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide, prices are highest. Vice versa for the struggling cities. It's economics at work. Affordability problems are also kicking in, with the fastest growth sector across the nation over the past 3 months coming from the lowest quartile of house prices. So the cheaper houses are growing in price faster than the expensive houses. I think I said that right. Yes. Unit prices are also rising much faster than house prices. That's probably an affordability issue as well. Bottom line here is that the momentum has definitely come out of the housing market, but price growth is still above inflation. Let's not forget that. My favourite story of the week. Michael.
That's a good story, Sean. Just a quick one for me this week.
Here we go.
And
You know when he says quick one, that's when I put the timer on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's actually a story that I'm surprised no one else has done. My favourite story this week is the Olympics. Okay? I suspect...
Which part of the Olympics? Like I was watching...
all of it.
I was watching the table tennis the other night. It was Thursday night, and the Korean champion was playing the Japanese champion, and there were 5 of us upstairs in our house watching the table tennis. Our local barista is a Korean guy, Peter. Love your coffee, Peter. And we were going off at this table tennis that was going on between Japan and Korea. Otherwise, would never, ever watch a game of table tennis. In fact, the only time I would have watched previously was at an Olympics. Isn't it great, though?
You are absolutely right. And you watch it kind of late at night. You've been getting up very, very early to watch. You watch the heats at night, the finals in the morning, and it's just been extraordinary. And like you with the table tennis, I've kind of found myself getting drawn into sports that I've never really kind of considered before, like the BMX with its flares and tail whips and feeble grinds and things.
Is there a feeble grind?
Whoa. Did you hear the commentary? The commentary of the BMX was fantastic. Just amazing. It is just so high energy, and everyone was being kind of supported. It's just it was actually just it was completely ridiculous because it was so amazing what they were doing. Of course, Adam, it is big business. So it belongs in a business.
Don't ruin it.
It belongs in a business podcast because if we wanted to get technical, we could talk about the $305 million that Nine paid for this and then the following 4 games after this. And the brands like Woolies and Telstra and Qantas paying huge money to advertise and the creativity of those ads. And we could talk about the value of the medals or the prize money paid by countries to their champions. But really, it is just an incredible spectacle, and it is one that brings everyone together. Everyone's got something to talk about. That is why it is my favourite story of the week. However, question for you both. As you are watching the Olympics, are there any sports that you just think, I reckon I could probably do that? I reckon I could I'd stand a reasonable chance of medaling in that one. For instance, just to pull an example out, I reckon in the rowing, I would make a good cox. In the 8s, I don't weigh a huge amount. I like the sound of my own voice, so I'm good at kind of encouraging them and telling them what to do. I could even, theoretically, as long as no one was looking too closely, I reckon I could be one of the rowers in the middle of the 8. I could just move my arms, pretend to be rowing. You know, like when you're singing in church and you move your lips and you don't actually make any noise. Yeah. Very similar to that. You could get on the e-bike, get out there and pop a couple of wheelies for the BMX.
Yeah.
Never surfed in my life.
No problems.
How hard could it be? Table tennis.
Oh,
very good at playing with a drink in one hand.
You've been at university. No problems there.
Yep.
What about Adam? What would Adam be good at?
Oh, God.
Race walking.
Imagine that arse of his going boom, 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 boom. Oh.
It is in his lycra.
That's right. Race walking. That is you all over, Adam.
I'm getting visions of Kath and Kim.
Oh, yes, you are Kel, aren't you?
I'm in.
And then Sean, I reckon I could see you as a fencer. Don't you reckon? You just
fully covered. No one knows
and
you'd
be strategic enough to kind of go.
But the triumph at the end when you whip off the mask and
and go, it is me, Sean Aylmer, underneath this.
So Sean.
Sean. Anyway, look, Olympics. And really, Olympics is just the best story. It could have been the biggest story of the week, really. But I've chosen it for my favourite story because it has just been so entertaining and so exciting and fun to watch, and really no melodrama required because the Olympics are all melodrama. There you go, Adam.
Michael wins.
Fair enough. I got no argument.
With Sean, on this one, it was so close, but on the melodrama, he just brought it home.
Oh, do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I love property. It is a spectator sport. Yeah. And as you put, that price growth is still ahead of inflation. That's incredible.
Yep. It is
absolutely incredible story.
But I'm happy to give it to the Olympics. I think that, that's what we're talking about.
It is.
I love the fact that, Adam, you said, though, that it was so close. You were saying that Hobart house prices are the equivalent of the greatest spectacle in the entire world.
Yes, indeed.
Adam, so what's the 2.5 to 2.5?
Yes.
Well, we've never had a score that adds up to 5 before. This is exciting.
Yes. And the score is also a tie. 92 points each. Oh,
Winners all round.
share the podium, gentlemen.
How
You
appropriate.
both win.
How
Yeah.
appropriate.
Good result. Fantastic. I'm very happy with that. After a run of
Bad decision making by me.
no, I was going to say of self-inflicted losses. Finally, you're witnessing something special today.
Humility.
I'm actually owning where I went wrong. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Sean.
And thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Adam.
Great result. Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great weekend.